Could this be the ultimate white paint color? Stay tuned to find out. I can't believe I haven't made a color code episode on this paint color yet. I remember when I was fairly new to house painting, I kept using white paint, especially on things like trim and woodwork. I would do lots of doors and frames. That was my duty at the time. And I always used to use a pre-mixed white paint color by Benjamin Moore, and it was just called white. If you know a thing about Benjamin Moore paint, or painting in general, you may be familiar with the many off-whites that exist, like Cloud White, Simply White, and yes, even Chantilly Lace. For some reason, at some point, the paint store I would go to didn't carry white anymore, but instead would just have all these tint bases, and that was it. So when I asked the representative at the store what the closest tintable white would be, their answer was color code OC152 Super White. Hit the like button if you enjoyed my Super White origin story. We're here to talk about this super awesome color because not only is it one of my favorites, but I've been seeing more and more professionals opting for it. It's part of the Benjamin Moore Off-White collection, which is notated by the OC in its color code, and it has an LRV just over 89, which puts it near the upper echelon of light white paint colors. I have got to say that there's not a ton to talk about in terms of undertones because it's pretty much free of any, and perhaps has the slightest kiss of warm gray that is completely subconscious in its impact, but has just enough of it to relax the white ever so slightly. Once we get into color pairings and trim colors, I'll also be sure to compare it to other prominent white paints so you can understand the difference a bit better. Speaking of color pairings, I think I'd put myself in a very interesting position here because there's quite literally 0 colors that don't go with super white. I could literally pick any 3 colors and they would work just fine. So what I decided to do was just put together a full color palette consisting of a light, medium, and dark color to go alongside super white on the trim. You have many options, but here's one. Not that you need to use super white on trim exclusively, but it's by far its most common use in my experience. If you're new to the paint people and you're enjoying this content so far, why not join the team with a smack of the old subscribe button so we can hang out at least 3 times a week. So for the light color in this little palette here, we have OC49 Titanium. My girl Sia would be proud. Titanium sounds like it would be a pretty simple gray color, but it's actually closer to the color of the year in its greenage glory. Greenage is a term that I coined that combines green and beige, but I will say that titanium incorporates a little more gray than beige because it has this overall feeling of coolness, like color temperature wise. With a light reflectance value right around 70, that puts it in a pretty good spot as a wall color because it won't feel washed out even on those really well lit parts of your home. I find it to be a really interesting take on gray because it naturally warms it up without feeling like it should be part of the tan and brown family of colors. If you're someone that used a lot of blue grays in the past and maybe you want a very slight deviation from that, then a color like titanium might be your greenage gateway drug. Moving on to the mid-tone color, we're going pretty dark here in comparison with an LRV right around 25. The color is called Desert Twilight. I know it probably doesn't sound very elegant, but to me this color has similarities to a rich, earthy mud type of color that is combined with a shaded olive green. It's supposed to represent a desert at night, so somewhere in its base, it does have that warmth present in the form of brown. But much like titanium, the color is dominated by dark gray and a bit of green. It'll be much more apparent just because of the sheer amount of saturation in it. And what's interesting is when it is paired next to titanium, it'll feel closer to taupe rather than that dark muddy green color. So far, we've been pretty on trend with the whole green coloration happening. And because our mid-tone color choice was already pretty dark, I wanted to go even darker for the last color pairing here, and that goes to Iron Mountain 2134-30. Iron Mountain's LRV is 9-ish, so that means it's only reflecting about 9% of the light that hits it. It's a pretty dark color, very much an off black, and on its own, it just seems like a dark slate gray. But again, the key to unlocking this color is how it's incorporated alongside the others in Titanium and Desert Twilight. The green in those two colors will accentuate the touch of red found in Iron Mountain that completes the whole earthy trifecta of colors. I would still classify all three as neutrals for sure, but it's how they all incorporate with one another that brings them to life for me. So now we're at the trim color portion of the video. So really, Super White is, in my opinion, the optimal white paint color for trim. It strikes the near perfect balance of bright but polite. A clean sheen that has never failed me anytime I used it. Now, has it been the absolute perfect choice every time? Well, to me, I'm not sure there is a perfect choice ever. But what I do know is I will continue to default to Super White when I'm trying to come up with a trim color. If I test it out and I feel that the color scheme could use a bit more warmth on the trim, I can always deviate from there. But it's never a bad idea to at least start with the superest of whites. I talked about my current favorite warm-off white in this video right over here, so check it out for another awesome option.